So a lot of folks are slamming Mike Portnoy because of an incident that happened at a London hospital where he supposedly had to be admitted for something and wanted to, or informed them that he had a show that he had to perform later on that night. However, he had a lot of difficulty getting seen within the hospital, and of course this has led to a lot of different arguments, a lot of different twists to the myth. Some people stating that, you have to wait your turn at a hospital, you're not special in any way, you're not any different from anybody else, to other arguments stating that Portnoy should have maybe been seen considering there is a matter of urgency. Arguments that also could stem from, well, what if he was seen whenever somebody who was deathly ill or was being rushed in from an emergency cart that had just suffered a fatal accident or a near-fatal accident was kind of left in the dust simply because a musician had to play a show. Reacting to this is very simple. It really is. It's not something that really requires that much thought. Just kind of lay off of this thing. This is an isolated incident. This is something that happens more frequently than you might imagine. It happens to a musician just as much as it really occurs to somebody who is not a worker whatsoever. It's just anger and real disillusionment whenever your wait or your tenure at a hospital is not exactly one that is approached with a high degree of time and not one that where you are seen very rapidly. Portnoy is not necessarily in the wrong here in mentioning the fact that he has a show to play in a couple of hours and that he wanted to, feel well for the show. He's actually well within his rights for wanting to feel up to the best of his ability whenever he's performing the show. However, he also stated that the show must go on, and he continued to do the show and perform in the show for the Neil Morse Band. And even though he stated that it was probably one of the worst days of his life, and the show wasn't exactly the best, he still went out there and performed. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are slamming the fact that he kind of used this guise whenever at the hospital, almost seeming as though he was acting like he was preferential to everybody else based around the fact he was a musician that was about to perform a show in a couple of hours. But the thing of it is that he still went on and performed the show. He still went out there and performed for the fans and performed for the people that actually helped support his career, because as of right now, he's in a number of bands. He's no longer the Dream Theater drummer. He's essentially almost a freelancer. Many people are stating that Portnoy is an arrogant asshole. A lot of people are stating that Portnoy believes that his status is something that makes him preferential, and I just don't see that in this. I see somebody who went to an office, that went to a hospital and was extremely, extremely disillusioned, was not feeling his best, and was simply hoping that he would still be able to perform, to do the thing that he loves to do, his chosen career path, what he has really seen as his destiny, his desire, and he didn't want this problem, he didn't want this ailment to get in the way. He didn't want this ailment to be something that held back the abilities that he naturally has. So I see both sides of this argument. I can see where one person may see this as a bit pretentious, where they might see this as a bit preferential. Somebody kind of demanding that they be seen before anybody else because of the urgency of what they have to do after they leave the hospital. But I also see the side of the people that were very supportive of what went on and really were kind of disillusioned themselves that he was not somebody that was sort of seen with rapidity based around what he was doing later. I mean, I can see both sides, but whenever it boils down to it, this is simply a problem that most people within their lifetime will no doubt deal with. It's the idea that bad things will happen, and they usually don't plan themselves to happen at good times. Bad things will happen to you, and it usually will not give you an advance warning, will not leave you an email or a sticky note right on your computer or on your refrigerator that will inform you that they are about to happen. You will not get a text alert to say, hey, you're going to have a heart attack in 45 minutes. You'll just have the heart attack in 45 minutes. You will not know about losing your job probably until the moment that the words "you're fired" or "we no longer require your services" are uttered to you. There may be some writing on the walls that you see in some of these situations, perhaps in losing a relationship, either that or a business partnership. Perhaps you'll see the writing on the walls that a loved one is about to pass away from whatever disease that they're fighting. But whenever it comes to the disease coming and becoming a part of this loved one's life or yours, or the ailment becoming a part of your life, the loss becoming a part of your life, it is usually unexpected, unknown, and hits you very hard. It's a stressor. It's something that causes great distress. So in turn, it does cause individuals, regardless of who they are, regardless to if they are the poor individual with no insurance who's worried about how much it's going to cost for them to go to the doctor, just as much as it affects those that have power, those that have money, those that have different situations. And really the thing of it is that it seems that certain people will react negatively over smaller things than others. But loss is something, and pain and really bad situations happen to everybody, and we usually are not the type of people here in 2015 that react to these things with the grandest of poise, with great honor and with a high degree of sensibility. We're instead people who react. We're a very reactionary culture, and that reaction is usually negative. So honestly, I would say get off of Portnoy's case a little bit with this. That would actually be what I would say. I'm not saying this because I'm a Dream Theater fan or a Flying Colors fan. I am a fan of both. Winery Dogs fan. It's got jack and shit to do with music, and it's got a lot to do with the fact that being an individual that has encountered loss suddenly, loss that has taken on a very sudden metamorphosis, or has dealt with pain throughout a large portion of the past couple of years of his life. I live with pain really every day based off of a couple of ailments that I have. This is natural. This happens, and this gentleman was simply trying to make sure that he was at 100% or at least somewhere close to it for the show. That way the fans would be happy. He was actually doing it for the people. So I can't actually chastise Mike Portnoy all that much for this. I can't sit here and tell you that I think he's a horrible person, because I really don't. I don't think that there's much here that can be dissected all the more than it already has been, and I think some of the dissection points that have occurred have been a bit faulty. Not to mention, I think some of the dissection points have really been people just searching for a new reason to hate Mike. And as silly and juvenile and high school level that sounds, it's truth. It's just the way that it is. Certain people cannot let go of certain things. Now, there are certain people that stated that there's a good chance that this is drug-seeking behavior. That's for the hospital to determine, and if they're right or wrong, then appropriate action needs to be taken. I, for one, know that Portnoy was on a lot of things. He was a drinker for a while, but I thought that there was a lot of that would have been taken care of. A lot of that had been at least controlled. I don't know that. I can't comment on that. I am simply mentioning the fact that this is part of the story that's going around. If indeed this is drug-seeking behavior, if indeed this was something where he was hoping just to get a little something to dull the pain, I would think and would hope, I would pray actually, that a person of Mike's caliber would have an individual, or would know of a way to do this without having to scam a hospital. And I really believe in my mind that this has jack and shit to do with that. 100%. But if it is, then that's a whole entirely different ball game. It's a whole different ball of wax. And you're right. People are trained to spot that type of mentality and that type of behavior a mile away. So will we fully know everything that happened in regard to this? Probably not. Should we care? Probably not. We should probably move on past this and recognize that there are more important problems in the world today. But after all, this is what we talk about on Cover Killer Nation Reacts. The things that people react to that spawn me to react to them as well. You've reacted to this, and now I plan on moving on.